These type of blanks here, when you cast those, if you're going to use them for pins, you're going to have to drill, which means you can probably see the tube unless it's really opaque. What you cast is real opaque. What I like about this is because I don't drill this, I'm going to use a white tube or a silver tube, and anything but the brass tube, because I don't care if people can see this, because with the colors I put in to mix, it's going to look pretty. And how this works is you take one of these corks, you put it in the end, you push this through, put the cork in the other end. Now, what you want to do is with your thumbs, you want to pull this apart as you press it with your fingers, and then let go. These will grab the corks and actually force them in, so they make a good seal. So this is ready to go. So you want to do this first before you mix anything. So what I've got here is part A, part B. I've got a ½ ounce each. So when I mix them together, I'm going to have an ounce. These are equal measure by weight. However, the weight is pretty much identical. So if you mix a ½ ounce, mix a ½ ounce, go together. Now, the biggest thing people ask me about this is bubbles. If I would treat this like something I whisk and I really stir it violently, I'm going to get a lot of bubbles. However, if I treat it like the bakers do, hold a meringue into a baking dish to make it nice, light, and fluffy, all you're doing is just moving it slowly. If you move it slowly, you reduce the bubbles. Once I mix this together, I've got 7 minutes. So 7 minutes is a long time. In addition to this, which is just mixing and pouring and adding different colors and different textures, I can also do some other things. If I want to swirl it, I would get a toothpick or something, and I could actually move this around, move the stuff around here underneath and do things. If I wanted to fill something like a knot in a piece of wood, I've got a beautiful board, I want to make something nice out of it, but I got a defect in the wood. Well, I can pour Allumilite into it, but if I'm pouring it, I'm introducing a lot of air bubbles. If I put it into a syringe, and this is designed for epoxy and Allumilite, and what you would do is when we mix it together, this just turns in like this, and you put that in and you actually pull it up. And just take your time, because if you pull it up this way, you don't have full of air bubbles. And then I'd come over here, take it down, and just start pressing slowly and filling up the recess and just bringing it up as I come. And you can do a lot with minimal air bubbles. Or I can make a color here, and I can put a different color here, and I can actually push this in as I move it along and introduce something neat into the swirl, and then see what happens when I turn it. So there's all different kinds of a way to inject color into this. And this stuff is really cheap on Amazon. What you're going to use is you're going to use popsicle sticks to stir. And these are the various sizes. So if I'm stirring, which of these sticks do you think make the least bubbles? Big one. Makes them more. Less, less, less. Which is the easiest one to use? Small one. So be governed accordingly. The one we're going to use today, and I use this for mixing, and I can also use another one for scooping product. So I'll show you what I mean. We're going to pour these together. And we're going to start our 7-minute clock. One of the things I like about sitting it out beforehand is any bubbles that I got when I poured it are gone. Okay? What I'm going to do here is just turn this, just like that. It's very tempting to just go, but if you just turn it like this, keep folding it, That's all of a sudden it's going to be a nice consistency. Also, I'm just looking to see that I've got a good mix right here, knowing that when I start putting stuff in here, I'm going to add to the distribution. But what we've got here, no bubbles. And I still got about 6 minutes to. Okay, so we got no bubbles. I'll put you over here for a second, so I'm going to come back to you. First thing I want to do, this is dyes. You get two types of dyes, a translucent dye or an opaque dye. Opaque, when you put this in, you won't be able to see through the Allumilite. The translucent, when you put, oh, come on. You will be able to. Try not to squirt myself. Yep. See if my scissors are still here. Ah. There we go. Go back to this. And we're getting our nice translucent color. And now, another thing I can do is I think this is going to roll over on me here in a minute. So I'm just going to do this. So now I've got this really nice purple color. And I can add colors to it. And what this is going to be, these are things that are going to suspend in there and allow me to, or allow you to see different colors through the purple. So this is a light purple, and we'll just spoon this in here. And this is a creamy purple. Dusty. Excuse me. Okay. And now we pour. The neat part is for the demo next week, we're going to turn the stuff we just made this week. Now, what happens if we don't make enough? I'm serious. What happens if we don't make enough? Make some more. The nice part about this is, since this is a casting, this will lay right over itself. So we do the same thing. So we don't need as much in this one. So we'll make half as much. Here's our part A. And here's our part B. Because of how this works, there really is no need to rush. If we don't make enough, we really don't care, because we can always add to it. And you can make it so that you can do different layers on purpose. So you can have a purple layer, you can have a red layer. It really doesn't matter. You can all these different things on purpose. So what we're going to do, we're going to mix stuff around. So let's just put some colored stone in here. And we won't use the dye on this one. And then we'll swirl it. If you write, something that you really like, make good notes. Because if you ever want to duplicate it again, it really helps to know how much of each product that you use to get exactly what you like or don't like. So here we go. Here's our next layer. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this little thing and we're going to and up here. And now we're taking the darker purple and moving it with the lighter, and we're taking the lighter and moving it with the darker. And I always like to take mine to the very top. It's much easier to cut stuff away when I've got too much than it is to add stuff when I don't have enough. So these are done. Now, how long do they need to sit in the block? At least 24 hours. Dry the touch in about 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. As this sets, this generates a little bit of heat, and that's okay. But what it should tell you is that if I put this someplace that's really cold, the cold air will suck the heat out of the conversion process, and you won't get a good cast. 60 degrees, just like for finishes. You always want it to be 60 degrees or higher. The warmer it is, the faster this stuff works. The colder it is, the slower it works until you get below 60, when it just turns into a sticky, gooey mess. There's never enough heat for it to fully catalyze. As far as what you use to mix it, you saw these sticks are going to be a godsend. You really won't be able to use them with stuff this tiny. I buy just a ton of these stuff. And what I use is, a lot of times I'll use these little cups for measuring and pour everything into a bigger cup where it's much, much easier to not make a big mess, like I just did with this. Any questions about anything we've covered so far? Now, because this starts a reaction when you mix it, that there's no way I can save this. Just know that in about 15 minutes, this is going to be brick hard. But for that 15 minutes, I can shoot this most any place. This is really good if you've got little cracks in the wood and you just want to fill them up. This is what you use. Mix it up, pull it up, just take your time like I did, but these are one use. When they're done, you're going to throw them away. So use the just this high density plastic. Very little thing stick. That's why there's so many screws. And all you're doing with this is just pouring And when it fills up, if you've got a good mold release, you might be able to get it out. If you don't, you have to undo screws and just open this stuff up. There's all kinds of molds. We don't have a market on molds. There's molds everywhere. You can make your own molds. For example, suppose you decided you really, really like something like this or something like this. And you want to say this, you want to see this. But what the heck could you use it for? Well, if I make a mold that comes up, I could fill this with clear Allumilite. When it hardens, I can cut it off here, mount it to a faceplate on a lathe. And if I turned it into a dome shape, then when you looked at it, it'd be like looking through a magnifying glass. And now you look for it, you'd see different things. Great. You can even put a little hole right here, put a little clock in the face, and put it right down the ground. You can do all kinds of neat stuff, but you can really show off this because you got to admit, there's not a whole lot we can use this for except to look at it. But it's really neat looking. So the Allumilite does a very, very good job as far as something crystal clear. We can actually make lenses just by how we shape it on a lathe. Yeah, or just we buy the sheets of the hard plastic. Yeah. Or you can take that and cut it so that it fits here. And remember, you can also put the Allumilite in and turn it and stick it upside down, just as long as it doesn't force the Allumilite out. Or you can do it the other way, have it so the wood is up, and then you just fill it to a level. For the river tables, those folks make their own thing, and it's usually a one-time use for them. Just you're going to use you can use wood, use plastic, get saran wrap or wax paper, and just line everything, and it'll work. It'll work. Then I always keep one around, and I do this from time to time. Actually, I'm going to do this, and it's not going to move. Then I know I can move this. I try to let everything just sit still because right now it's in a process and I really don't want to disturb it. And I'm really curious to see what we get next week when they turn it. I let it sit for 24 hours. The Allumilite, I'll tell you, yeah, I'm in no rush with this stuff. Now, if I was a production shop, yeah, I'd probably be doing it a little bit different. And what you do with the production shop is, if you're not going to make a little bead thing like that and stir it, you're going to take 2-gallon jugs, pour them into a 3-gallon bucket, and stir like crazy. Put all your stuff in, stir like crazy. You're going to have more bubbles than Carter's got peanuts, and that's okay. It's the way it's supposed to be. The vapor towels are gone, but that's okay. You can, however, it's not recommended. And the reason is it's a caster. And for epoxy works better because that's a big you're trying to do. And the epoxy is designed for that. And what you're using for it, you get there's a countertop epoxy that's designed for counters. It's designed to pour over big areas. It's designed to self-level and all that good stuff. So I would use that for river tables. This is too expensive to be used for river tables. It's really good for casting, though, for pin blanks, and I use it for another thing I cast with is bottle stoppers. You can make some really neat stuff out of bottle stoppers and wood with this. And if you go look over here at some of the blanks we have, the latest fad is to take some beautiful wood that isn't solid and cast the air spaces in it with this stuff. And then when you turn it, you've got a wood hybrid, and it looks pretty good. Any questions?